The former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has launched an attack on Malcolm Turnbull, claiming he had said he would support him to become the next United Nations Secretary-General until May this year. His former party crying foul, but the government says that's a bit rich considering Labor's provided some of the harshest character assessments of Mr Rudd in recent times. From Canberra, political reporter Matthew Doran.
His name's Kevin. He's from Queensland. And he's not heading to the United Nations to help.
Malcolm Turnbull's actions are pathetic. They're disappointing.
Yesterday, Malcolm Turnbull put an end to Mr Rudd's campaign to be nominated for the United Nations Secretary-General job. The man who helped unseat Mr Rudd as Prime Minister is critical of the decision.
The former Prime Minister of Australia, a distinguished Australian, has been treated in a very shabby fashion.
The Labor Party themselves, by their statements against Mr Rudd, by their actions against Mr Rudd, had disqualified Mr Rudd from that job.
Mr Rudd's released letters, he says, in the interest of transparency. They outline a timeline spelled out by the former Prime Minister about conversations he had with the current one. In September, Mr Rudd claims Mr Turnbull was as one with the Foreign Minister Julie Bishop in his support. 2 months later, in a meeting at Parliament House, he says Mr Turnbull even asked who he needed to lobby on Mr Rudd's behalf. Days before Christmas, they met again in Sydney, when the Prime Minister advised him it would now be Cabinet's decision, but that wouldn't change the outcome. In April, Kevin Rudd officially asked to be nominated, conceding he understood it may not be a priority for Cabinet. 1 month later, Mr Rudd says the Prime Minister pulled his support, a view he alleges had never been expressed before. A day later in question time, the Prime Minister suggested it hadn't come up.
In the event of this matter becoming a live one, then certainly the Cabinet will consider it and give it due attention.
Just hours after it was reported Cabinet was split on the decision, Mr Rudd pleaded for a meeting with the Prime Minister, arguing he didn't want it played out in the media.
I've seen some reports that this was sort of a captain's pick. It was not. It's a decision of Cabinet.
Mr Rudd says he didn't want to make a media show out of this decision, but that's exactly what's happened. The Prime Minister's office insists Mr Rudd's claim he had Malcolm Turnbull's support in December is incorrect, and that he always knew this would be a decision for Cabinet. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Canberra.